you cannot survive without cholesterol. Let's be honest with that conversation, okay? So when you're being told to avoid the eggs and cholesterol-rich foods, is a lie. So it has to be unlearned on this one, all right? So that test is intentional because it makes you focus on LDL. And once the LDL are very high, you start thinking, oh, I might end up getting a stroke or a heart attack because this cholesterol is going to clog my arteries and expose me to danger. However, allow me to shock you that on that test, well done, you've done it, but request to go deeper. Either they look at the HDL and the triglyceride ratio, or they can actually go ahead and classify the LDL into these two types. Because the low density lipoprotein, the carrier that carries cholesterol from the liver into the system, has two types again. One of those types is the one that actually causes problems. And the weird part is, it is not even associated with carrying cholesterol. It doesn't even carry the cholesterol. So LDL is classified into two. One is the small dense LDL, small but very dense LDL. And then we have the large and then buoyant LDL. Now on these two, the small dense LDL is the problem because this one, because of its density, it can easily penetrate the walls of the blood vessels, causing you problems, causing you inflammation and all that. But the large buoyant is safe. That's the one that doesn't even carry the cholesterol, and that's where the challenge comes in. So when somebody tells you, oh, you have high LDL, and then diagnoses you with familial hypercholesterolemia, and then they give you a statin or a fibrate or niacin to actually lower this cholesterol, they're actually messing you up, right? Because they are not even lowering the vehicles, they are lowering the one that is carried by the vehicles. They are lowering the cholesterol. And who will now fix the inflammation? And realize you can have high LDL, which is a larger percentage, the small dense LDL. Now that one will expose you to problems generally because of inflammation. But if you have high LDL, but the larger percentage is now the large buoyant, there's no call for alarm because that one is the protective one, is the safe one. So do not pay attention so much on the LDL and HDL. Go deeper, right? But the most important thing that you should take keen on that test is triglycerides, because those ones are actually coming from a different direction. You remember when you talked about fructose? These were they actually coming in from, all right? And realize this, a lot of cholesterol is being made by the liver. So it's not made, or it's not coming from what you're eating. Very minimal percentage, about 15 to 20% is coming in through diets. So a lot of cholesterol that is in your system is actually coming in from the liver making it. That's why drugs stop the liver from making it. But the question comes in this way. Yes, we have told you already to stop eating cholesterol-rich foods. Why is your cholesterol still going up? Why? Because the liver is trying to compensate for you not taking in cholesterol, so the liver is making even more. And that's a problem. Now, you stopped eating those eggs, you stopped eating those saturated fats. Now you still have high cholesterol. Does it even make sense to you? And now we have to give you a drug to stop the liver from making cholesterol. So then who is going to fix our inflammation? Are we not using statins to actually create a business for the pharmaceutical companies? Because the side effects of statins will guarantee more drugs on your prescription. So be very careful, okay? So a lot of people who have actually suffered a stroke or a heart attack, you run the lipid profile. These guys have a very normal lipid profile, and you start wondering, why then is cholesterol being demonized when there are people who actually have a heart attack and strokes with their cholesterol levels in order? You should be very careful with that, okay? So a high SDLDL, the small dense LDL, is the one that will predispose you to heart attacks, to strokes, to kidney failures, to dementia, to glycation. Remember when you do the HbA1c, where sugar is attaching itself to red blood cells? That is exactly what is actually activating that process, the small dense LDL. And of course, they will cause systemic inflammation by causing oxidative stress to the cells and to the vessels in general, producing these radicals that cause you more problems, right? And this also can be associated with the seed oils. So you should be very careful about the seed oils instead of thinking about just cholesterol and jumping into taking a statins. Some of you self-medicate yourself just because your family history has hypertension, has heart attacks, has strokes. You've taken a chance on yourself to start taking in the statins. You even started on 40 milligrams every night so that you try to prevent yourself from getting the strokes. But you did not pay attention deeply because you're still consuming the wheat, the sugars, and all the seed oils. You're still obese. So then you're just wasting time. You're actually digging your own pit as early as now, right? So statins do not reduce the LDL. they lower production of cholesterol in the liver. So as you're focusing on the vehicles that carry cholesterol, statins have nothing to do with the vehicles. Statins have everything to do with the cholesterol. You see that? And that's a mess. So you should start asking these questions to your doctor.